With the user model set up, let's make sure we can use it together with the product model. Now, obviously, every product should be assigned to a user. So first of all, we need to change our product schema a little bit. A product should also have a user ID field, let's say, just as we had it before in the last module. Now, a user ID field is of type, and now which type is this? Well, it will be a reference to a user. So this will actually be of type schema, types, object ID, and now we can set something special here. We can add a special ref configuration. And ref takes a string where we tell Mongoose, hey, which other Mongoose model is actually related to the data in that field. We know that we will store a user ID here, but just because the type is object ID, this is not obvious. This could be any object ID of any object. So I will add user here, and you use the name of your model to which you want to relate this. So since our model here is named user, I will name it user here. So I refer to my user model here. And with that, I got a relation set up. This also means that in my user model, where I do store the product ID, I can also add a reference here and refer to product. Because I know that for every user in the cart items, I will store products where I refer to some ID, and that ID happens to refer to a product stored or defined through the product model. So now we got relations set up with ref. Of course, you only need this when using references. When using embedded documents, as we do with the cart, you don't need to do anything because, well, you use an embedded document. This already has kind of an implicit relation that is managed inside of one document. So now with the references set up, let me also add a required to true here. And now I adjusted my schemas. Now with the schemas adjusted, we of course also need to adjust our code, like in the admin controller when we create a new product. When creating a new product, we also want to make sure we store the user ID. And that is super simple. We just add user ID here to the fields we pass in the object to the product constructor. And now remember that we did save the user in our request. So I can just do request user underscore ID like this. And this should give me access to the user ID and assign it here. Now, conveniently in Mongoose, you can even just store the entire user object. So this is really the entire user object, not just the ID. And Mongoose will just pick the ID from that object. So that's another convenience you got there. Let me save my code. Let's go back and let's add a new product. A nice book. Let's use that image URL we used before. Let's give it some price. You should not miss that. And click Add Product. Now you see, that looks good, it was added. And now let's have a look at Compass and see if the user ID was added too. So if I refresh there, indeed we see the user ID here, and just the ID. Not the entire user, just the ID, as we wanted. So this is pretty awesome. This is how we can manage relations through Mongoose. Now let me also show you something cool when it comes to fetching these relations.